Give everybody one more minute. Okay, we can go ahead and get started. Hello, everybody. My name is Trish Gerard with iReading Tutor. I'm a dyslexia specialist. I hold a master's degree in special ed and undergrad in elementary and early childhood. I've been running this business now for 10 years. I started it out of necessity because my son was severely dyslexic and wanted to get Wilson trained so that I could also help him as well. And that's how I started my business. There's such a need for this in the community. 1 in 5 students have dyslexia, and today we'll be talking about reading difficulties and how to link assessment to effective instruction. But before we do that, with Eleanor Goldberg, I wanted to tell you a little bit about iReading Tutor and what we offer. We started as a support group back in 2017. We passed legislation here in Florida. It's House Bill 7069. We worked for 2 years prior to that, 2015, 16, and 17, to pass the legislation with Representative Gail Harrell in the Senate. And that legislation made it possible for K-3 in our Florida state statutes. It says multisensory explicit systematic instruction in our state statutes, which is the gold standard of reading instruction. That's what we paid billions of dollars as a country in early 2000 in the National Reading Panel. It was presented to Congress, but it wasn't being translated into policy and practice in our public schools. So we made it law here in Florida, and that's the exact language that was written, a notice of refusal on my son's IEP. When your child's dyslexic, that's exactly what they need, structured literacy. So that's what we provide here at iReading Tutor. It helps kids with autism as well, and we offer Bell tutoring, visualizing and verbalizing for those with dyslexia, and also autism. It's a language-based program, visualizing and verbalizing, and it helps you with comprehension. We offer small group tutoring, and these are the ages, and we're hopefully starting that this summer. If we get a class of 3, we can start a class. We offer advocacy and IEP services if you need somebody to help you go to an IEP meeting and help advocate. We just started book clubs, and we have them for grades 2, 3 through 5, and 6 through 8. And like I said, we started our business primarily, we have all Wilson level 1, level 2, and therapists. We have CALS, which is a certified academic language therapist. They're very popular in the Southeast. We have certified Barton reading and spelling tutoring. Those are all pure Orton Gilling, and those are all structured literacy-based programs. And like I mentioned before, we do also offer Linda Bell LIPS, which is a phonological processing program, and also visualizing and verbalizing. We also offer the homeschool evaluation. We do norm reference testing, such as the WIST. It's the word identification and spelling test, and it'll tell you exactly where your child falls with other students their age. So if you had a 9-year-old in 4th grade, it'll tell you, maybe they're in the 30 percentile, which means 70% of the kids outperform them, or maybe they're in the 70th percentile, which means they're only 30% are outperforming them. And then we do that so that a lot of parents, they have a conflict with the public schools at times, and the public school doesn't see the deficits that the parents see, or maybe a private tutor. And we have this WIST that you'll have a report that you can provide to the public school, because when you request testing, there has to be a need. So this will present the need to the public school that your child, if they're lower than the 25 percentile, that needs some extra help, like an IEP. Okay, and then we also offer for kids with autism, the Peer Social Skills Program. That's out of the University of UCLA. And we have a Dr. Sharon Bouchard hosting that online. We also have informal reading screenings that we can just do, and it's $125. It could take up to an hour of instruction. You also get a written report. It's similar to the other, but it's a plethora of different tests rather than just the one WIST. So those are all our services that we offer. here at iReading Tutor, and we hope that you enjoy the presentation tonight by our wonderful Eleanor Goldberg, who I met many, many years ago. I taught in Broward County Public Schools. It's the sixth largest school district in the country. And then I taught at Palm Beach County Schools, which is the 10th largest. And she was the reading specialist for the ESE department. So when I went to professional development as a autism teacher in Broward County, she was the professional go-to guru. And she's going to be presenting tonight on understanding reading difficulties and linking assessment to effective instruction. So welcome, everybody. I hope you enjoy the presentation.
Okay, well, thank you so much, Trisha. Very happy to be here. I've been following your business, Trisha, for years because we all said it was unbelievable, everything you offer. And I am now retired. I have a little bit of a private business, but mostly I see my grandchildren. But I can't get out of all reading. I can't get out of helping kids read. And I do private testing, and I actually do the WIST on any child I test. I do the WIST as part of my battery of tests, but I'll talk more about what I do when I do my private tutoring. If you have any questions, stop me. I haven't been in Broward schools now in a couple of years. When I retired, after I retired a year, I went back into a couple of them just to help with their reading programs. I am certified in Wilson. I used to be a foundations trainer, if you've heard of the foundations program, which is a really like a structured literacy program for kids in K1, 2, and even goes up to grade 3. But as Broward County does, they don't even do it anymore. So it's sort of crazy. Anyway, so what I want to do today is look at, okay, here we go. The research, the newest research in reading, different types of reading difficulties. We'll talk about screenings and I'm not even going to go back and how to match a program with looking at the child's deficits. The research that I'm talking about mostly is from Scarborough, who I've seen at loads of conferences. UCATS, who actually had a relative in Broward County who was an ESC specialist at his school. So he was always very nice to Broward. Barbara Foreman and Kate Kane, who's from England, who's done unbelievable research on reading and writing. And I mentioned her book later on. Okay, so the main thing, I'm sure you've all seen this, is the simple view of reading. It's old, but it's really a guide because when you think about reading is you need decoding and language. And that has never changed. To be able to read text, you have to be able to pronounce the words, but you also need good oral language so you know what the words mean. And we know that if either one of these things is weak, the reading comprehension will suffer. So through the years now, we've had, I think I missed Scarborough's rope, maybe. I'm not sure if I can go back to it, but structured literacy really, okay, let's go to the next one. I'll have you do it, Trisha. Just, okay, let me try. We have this. Okay, now I'll try. Okay. This is, I don't know if you've ever seen Scarborough's rope for reading, but she says to be a fluent reader, you need language comprehension and, of course, word recognition. And within each of these areas in language comprehension, you need background knowledge, etc., vocabulary, verbal reasoning. If anything if anything is missing, if there's any problem on this, you will not be a fluent reader. So you need it's just really the rope. And if anything is frayed, you're not going to be a good reader. So this was what was shown at every national conference there was years ago. Now, of course, we're into structured literacy because we have all this evidence now, when we've done tons of research the past 20 years on why children struggle in reading. It's just like when you go to the doctor and the doctor does not give the same test to everybody, or you may get the first test and they get the results, and you say, well, what about this? What's next? We have evidence and we have evidence-based programs now to support all of the children that we do work with. And the who, the tier one, of course, the whole class, small group, and individual. Um, the what, which I think is the most important thing, is when a child learns to read, they need word recognition, but they also need handwriting and spelling. And I have to say that when my grandchildren were in school in New Jersey, I'd say, wait, do you have reading groups? And they say, no, we have spelling groups. Everybody is divided up by their spelling ability. It was great. And they were in little groups in the classroom for phonics and spelling instruction. And by the way, even there, they never had a weekly spelling test. The spelling would be cumulative based on what they were learning in phonics, and they would be having tests. But the groups were on the writing, spelling, and the how, of course, goes into reading comprehension. And in their school district, reading comprehension, everyone was together. Perhaps they were broken up into little groups on their levels when they read the books, but I loved how they did the phonics and spelling. I thought it was unbelievable. Um, Okay, structured literacy is really an outgrowth of everything with the science of reading. And I know, Diane, you're a Barton person, so you know that is a structured literacy program. There is a method to how you teach. You follow a sequence, and it's multisensory. And instructions are based, it's not hit and miss, it's done in a very orderly manner. So it's an approach grounded in the science of reading. That is what we're hoping that schools will do. Okay, so what's structured liter? Oh dear, I hit it too fast. Okay, structured literacy, it's the umbrella term for evidence-based reading. And really, evidence-based means that they tried the programs out with groups of children who had these same errors, and they gave testing before, testing after, and that is where the evidence was. And we also always talk about um, reading that instruction that's explicit, systematic, sequential, diagnostic, and multisensory, using every sense you have. Now, I notice a lot of schools are using UFly. I don't know if any of you have seen that from the University of Florida. I'm not telling you to use it, but it is multisensory. And I know in Broward now, many schools are using that program, which is a structured reading program, not on the level of Wilson or Barton or other programs, but it is following that. Okay.
We have that in our iTutor drive.
Pardon me?
We have that in our reading tutor drive for the
Oh,
tutor.
okay. It's good. You know what? I did a lot of U-Fly stuff with my granddaughter. When she would come when she was younger, truthfully, she was being tutored by a friend of mine in foundations. This was during COVID, and she was just all over the place. But then when she came to the house, we made the U-Fly boards together. We did everything together, and I liked it. I thought it was pretty good. Really. I thought it was great. It was systematic. It was multisensory. It was fine. Okay. I have found in my experience of working with kids and going to schools that the biggest problem is schools will say, oh, we know the child is struggling, but they never identify why they're struggling. That is the biggest problem. And I think that's what we'll talk about today. I apologize ahead of time if this is all a review of everything you know, but I can't stress it enough because every time I go to a school and I still work with some families, they say, oh, it's comprehension. Well, right. But why is there a comprehension problem? It can't be that everybody needs comprehension. That is not the issue. Okay. So, no. Okay. So the research consistently says this. Phonemic awareness helps students recognize that words are made up of sounds. And really, Many children have phonemic awareness deficits, and it can be fixed, and they're not SLD, they're not dyslexic. A large portion of kids just don't have it, don't have the sounds for whatever reason. Maybe in their nursery schools they didn't do it, and they don't have it. We know that as kids get older, they need more complex words, and phonemic awareness allows the kids to understand the sounds. And I have to tell you, one project that was in the state of Washington, they noticed that a lot of kindergarten kids were being referred for occupational therapy because they couldn't write. They couldn't make their letters. And then they said, this is crazy. Why are we having so many referrals? So they started going into schools and they started testing the kids on their sounds. And it turned out that it wasn't that they needed occupational therapy, they didn't know the sound that the letter made. Remember, everybody sings the alphabet song. And in England, I know they used to teach it. It's more important that you know the sound that that symbol stands for than the name of the letter. So in Washington, this goes back 30 years. That was an issue. So we know that phonemic awareness is the basis of everything, helping them hear the sounds. Okay. When we look at the research from Barbara Foreman and others, they say the major problems are word recognition and decoding, fluency, automaticity, and language comprehension, understanding what they're reading. And then just on another level, just going a little bit higher, the phonological awareness, you look, I sometimes do a rapid naming test when I do my own private testing because I like to see how quickly the kids process the information. And I look and I always request if they're going to have a psychological that they look at working memory because that also plays into that a big part of why a child has problems learning to read. And we never say, oh, they can't read because of their IQ. That is not why kids can't read. The cognitive part plays something in understanding it, but it's not the answer. Okay, so why are they having trouble with comprehension? It could be word recognition issues, poor background knowledge, poor language comprehension. I was lucky for 12 years. I worked in a private school with hearing impaired kids and learning disabled kids. And my co-teacher was a speech language pathologist. It was unbelievable because everything we did, and in those years we did Orton, and I think a Lindemood program was coming out then we had, but having a speech language pathologist in the classroom when we did all our stories and writing, she was just unbelievable. She added so much to it. Okay. Um, a poor comprehender. We know that you could read well. We have kids who can read everything, but they don't understand the text and they have trouble with inference and integration of information. And that is many of our kids who are on under the autism umbrella. Those are problems that they sometimes have also. Although your disability doesn't tell you what instruction is, because one of my earliest cases in Broward was a little girl in second grade. She was getting services for autism. And when I evaluated her, I said, wow, I think she needs Wilson. And she did. And we put her in Wilson. I followed her all through high school and she went to college, but it was more of a decoding issue. I said, and I would tell her mother, I said, she doesn't look, nobody looks like what it is. Every child is still a child, but I felt that this is what she needed, and we gave her Wilson, and she just did great. It was really unbelievable. Okay, okay. Um, 80 to 90% of kids who are diagnosed of having a learning disability, it's usually in reading, and many of them, the problem is in word recognition skills. That's okay. Oh dear. Can you go back one, Trisha? I'm sorry.
No
Okay.
worries.
Okay. All right, good. So, um, okay.
Is this the one you want?
Um, I think so. Yes. Okay. Let me go back to reading comprehension. This is Barb. Oh, this is it. Word recognition disability. Weak decoding skills are the most common cause of reading difficulty. And I worked on an army base. Whoops. In from 1974 to 1976, my husband was in the service. These were the years of the draft, but he had finished he all his training. He's a physician, and during the draft, they said, "Doctors, if you finish your training, you could serve the army, but after you finish all your training." So we went into the army, and I got a job on the base, working with soldiers who had been high school dropouts who had been arrested for minor offenses. And when they went to the judge, he said, well, and most of it was either car theft, mostly car theft, which was good because I had an old Dodge Dart that couldn't start, and I used to have different kids start my car. But, and he said to them, and they wrote me letters why they're there. And he said, either you're going to go to jail or you enlist. And when you enlist, you are going to school 4 afternoons a week. And after you improve, you're taking the GED and then you're going to junior college. So it was an unbelievable program. And they were anywhere from 16 to 18. I was from New York City. They had never seen anybody from New York City before. And when we tested them, because I knew how to test kids, they were all reading on about a fourth to fifth grade level. It was multisyllabic words. That was the problem. And we spent oh, and by the way, in the back of my classroom, I had a soldier with a rifle. I never had any problems with behavior. It was crazy. But we worked every day. We worked on reading comprehension, we worked on writing, but we worked on word study, root words, prefixes, and suffixes. And it was like opening up a world for them. And of course, they were out of their home environment. They're in Killeen, Texas. This was Fort Hood. And they had nothing to do but come to class, go home, read, and then come the next day. It was really it was a great program. Great. Okay. They look just like kids today, no difference. Okay. All right. And we know weak decoding leads to poor Okay. Reading comprehension deficits. This is Dr. Barbara Foreman, who was from the Florida Center for Reading Research. And she also did all this research on word level disorders, how it affects comprehension. And I can't tell you how often I would say this in Broward. It wasn't, in Broward you used to have what was that whole language program they had for so many years? They spent Fontes and Pinnell. Oh my God. And it just didn't do any decoding. Nothing. Okay. Um, Comprehension challenges are apparent in older children and also children who are behavior problems. They get noticed first sometimes because the kid in the class who's causing the trouble usually is having a reading problem. That's always been my experience also. Okay. Kate Kane is this researcher from England. She's unbelievable. And she said when you have problems with comprehension, it's usually it's very often related to their oral language. There is a big tie-in between oral language and reading comprehension. Just because you could read the words well doesn't mean that you're going to comprehend it. And really, reading comprehension is predicted by the skills that allow readers to extract information from text. I thought it was very interesting. So, okay, well, I think I want to go back one. Why did I hit two?
I want to. I'll help you.
Okay, can you go back one? Then well, it's fine. Okay, go back one more, then we'll go to this one, which I love, but back one, let's see. Okay. Um, okay, so what do we know? The Scarborough language development precursor of future reading difficulties. When we have a child that we're testing, we always say, how old were they when they started talking? it doesn't mean if you're a late talker that you're going to be a poor reader, but it is a little bit of a red flag. And we do have very good programs for children, preschoolers who are language impaired, who are late talking, because there is a connection of language and then reading problems. Phonemic awareness and vocabulary predict decoding, but oral vocabulary really tells you how the kids are doing with language. And I have to tell you, with my granddaughter, who I saw in first grade, really wasn't reading, and we got her a tutor, but um, I don't know if you've given the diagnostic assessments of reading. I talk about that test later on. But just in talking to her, I used to say, Maddie, what does the word ancient mean? Have you ever heard that word? She goes, oh, yes, things are very old. So then I used to just throw it out to her in talking just to see if she knew the words, if she at least was getting it orally and understood what the words meant. Okay. Mm. Uh, I'm not moving it. Trisha, maybe you could try the next one.
Go ahead, you can try it now.
Okay. All right. Well, I think the next, okay, this is still consequences of poor comprehension, Kate Kane. This is very interesting. Kids who have comprehension problems as they get older, their sight vocabulary scores do not improve. And I don't know why, but we've seen that. Okay. Okay, they have vocabulary. Um, problems. It doesn't get better. Nothing is fixed just by getting older. The problems, unless we deal with it, really, they don't improve themselves. And poor listening comprehension, I used to give listening comprehension tests, and it could just be where you read them a passage, they don't see it, they're listening, and then you ask them questions about it. And a case I had when we brought Wilson into Broward County, there was a kid at a middle school, and the parents called the district, and I had to go in and test him. And when I tested him, his word recognition was on a first grade level, but the teacher said, it's so crazy. He can't read the text at all. But we read all the plays, they were doing Shakespeare, and they said we read the plays out loud. And I gave him the test orally, and he's the only one who got an A on the test. It was unbelievable. And his listening comprehension was incredible. And I remember with him when I gave him the diagnostic assessments of reading, which I love that test, and the word meaning part, he was in eighth grade. I think his word meaning was ninth grade level. And his reading, decoding was on a first and second grade level. And he wound up because there was another kid in the school who had a problem, but the parents were pretty influential. And we wound up when they went to high school, we put Wilson in the high school. And for their first year, I think it was MacArthur High School, we had a class just getting Wilson, a group of kids just getting Wilson every morning for like 2.5 hours. And then my kid sent me a letter before he left high school. He wound up dropping out anyway, but he said, I always wondered why it took Broward County such a long time to figure out what was wrong with me. I knew I was smart. And it was unbelievable. Unbelievable. And whatever. Okay, let's keep going. Okay, so this is Kate Kane again. Problems. Let me try to get to the next one. No, I'm frozen. Okay, next slide. If you can do it, I'm not. Okay, more of Kate Kane, comprehension, monitoring. Okay, let's go to the next one. You guys could pronoun knowing this because the chart. No, I think I have to go back to the chart. I'm sorry. I don't know where. There's a chart, and you have it in your handout that says, okay, this is it. Parts of speech and comprehension. This is probably put a star. This is like really important. If you listen to a child talk, you could sometimes figure out why they're having a comprehension problem. If when a child talks about a story, they said, "Oh yeah, I'm with my sister," and keeps mentioning, let's say, the sister's name, and never uses she or he, never uses a pronoun. If you if you do not know how to substitute a pronoun for a noun, you cannot answer what or who questions. I think it's so interesting. If you have trouble with verbs, it's then the action word, then you can't tell in a story who's doing what because you don't understand that the verb is telling you action. Um, and if they have trouble with adjectives, they cannot tell you what kind or how many things happened in a story. It is so important to listen to how a child speaks and what they say, because the language will tell you the problems they're going to have. And, the hardest thing to fix, in my opinion, is a child with a comprehension problem because you have to really look at the oral language and connect it and figure out where the breakdown is. But I got this from a speech and language pathologist, and I thought it was so interesting how this works with kids. And also, if you look at their writing, you'll also notice that very often the verb doesn't match the noun, or they have the tense wrong,
Mhm.
right? Or they don't have singular and plural. And that tells you so much about comprehension. Okay, we could keep going now. I'm sorry. I just wanted to make sure we saw that. Okay, we did Kate Kane. Um, all right. Okay, let's go back one. Sorry. Okay, getting into now one more, I believe, to the fluency. Are we still here? Go back a little bit. Okay, one more. Okay, go back one more slide if you can. Okay, let's start here. We're going to be talking about fluency now. And when I do test a child, even if I'm giving a bunch of tests, I do test them on an oral reading fluency probe. And I know Broward County doesn't do it anymore. All they're doing is some computer tests, but these are the latest norms for oral reading fluency. And when I've been to a couple of Wilson update trainings, they always have stuff. Everyone is saying now that you really need to look at the 50th percentile to get the rate, the correct number for what their rate should be. So if I'm testing a fifth grader or I'm working with a fifth grader, I will give him, first of all, a fifth grade probe. I know it could be too hard, but I have to measure him against his non-disabled peers. I have to measure him against kids who are in fifth grade. And let's say I'm testing him right now and it's spring, he should be able to read 146 words correct per minute. Let's say I start working with him and I'm noticing it's a decoding issue, and that he's really only decoding on a second grade level. I will probably use a second grade passage to monitor progress, but I will still use the norms, the rate of how many words he should read for his grade level. So that if he's a fifth grader on a second grade passage. And wow, I've been working with him and I'm giving him a second grade passage to monitor progress. And he's only reading, I think, second grade, it's 100 words correct per minute. That's still not good enough because he should be reading at this stage 146 words correct per minute, which isn't even in it, but it just tells you, thinks about where they should be. But I always have this with me. I have a little copy of this, the oral reading fluency norms, and I use the 2017 one. Okay, so this is just about rate. And if you have trouble finding such a small group forms, I could email you. I think I have the Acadian Dibbles. I have Dibbles 8 is free online, and they have all the oral reading fluency probes. But it's an easy way to also have but parents to understand where their child is in oral reading. And I know the schools, I don't know in Palm Beach if they're doing them, but they're not doing it in Broward. Okay. How do you know what the problem is? Is it like you get a kid? How do you know what the issue is? Even if somebody told me what they think it is, I need to find out myself. Okay, so I use the diagnostic assessments of reading. Um, I had actually bought a kit so for my own private use when I test kids, and that lets me know right away about their word recognition, the oral reading, silent reading. It tests spelling also, which is important. But I look at word meaning to tell me that's an oral test. I say a word, they tell me what the word means. I want to see what their language level is because that's going to make a difference in how I work with the child. If I have a fifth grader whose word meaning is only like on a second grade level, he really doesn't have a good vocabulary. I'm going to, and his word recognition is very low also. I'm going to have to think about how I'm going to approach it. I am going to put him in a structured literacy program, but maybe I would use you fly and not Wilson. I don't know, just to get them moving. It just depends on the child. But I really look at all of this. The word meaning score on the door should be at least at their grade level. That's where they should be. Okay. Okay, Trisha, next slide. I'm sorry. Okay, this is a case study. This is actually, I'll tell you about this little boy. He was a third grader at a school, and the principal asked me to look at him. He had been retained. He's a retained third grader. And these are the grade levels. So I gave him a door. He was on the second grade level in word recognition, oral reading, second grade level, silent reading, forget it. He couldn't answer questions. Even when he had the story and retell, he couldn't do it. Spelling was really poor, first grade level. His word meaning was a fourth grade level. It was unbelievable. He was smart. He was a really smart boy. And I said to the principal, I would like to do Wilson with him. I'm getting certified in Wilson. I need a child who lives sort of in our area so his parents could bring him to my house on weekends, and I want to work with him. The guidance counselor pulled me aside. She said, I wouldn't work with him if I were you. He's a mean kid. He's a behavior problem. And I would not, you're wasting your time. So that made it now I definitely was going to work with him. Oh, I was not listening to her. And I did Wilson with him. The first time I met him, I said, what is your goal? He said, I want to read on a fifth grade level. I said, great. And he said, and I don't want to have to repeat third grade. Well, I knew the law. The law was you can only repeat a grade once. I said, I promise you, you will not repeat third grade. But a year and a half later, he got to fifth grade level. And I said to him, if you want, I'll get certified now, Wilson level two, if you will be my student. He said, I never want to see Wilson again. But I did get him. He was great. He was on level, did okay, went to middle school. And but that was one-on-one, 3 times a week. Twice I went to the school. Once the parents would bring him on the weekend. But we did it. It was great. And okay, this is from Dr. Hugh Katz. And I like this chart because he said, when you're categorizing kids, he said, usually kids with poor word recognition and good listening are dyslexic. That's your dyslexic kid. If you read them the story, they're going to get it. If they have good listening and good word, other, that's not a kid I'm ever called about. Okay, poor listening. We used to have in Broward language learning disabled classes where the kids had trouble with decoding, but also had language impairments, and they were co-taught by a teacher and a speech language pathologist. They don't have that anymore. It was a really good program. That's a harder kid to help. That's going to need more intense work, not just in the decoding, but also oral language and probably writing. Okay. And hyperlexia is, your kids who can read anything. I had a friend who called me that they were so happy her 2-year-old grandson could read everything. And I'm like, Oh no. And I was right. It turned out he was on the autism spectrum. He's doing great now, but he wound up going to a very good school in Brow. We had the Bowdoin Oral School was for kids with autism, but I knew it wasn't a good sign that he could read everything. It was unusual. Okay. Um, Components of effective reading, everything, oral language, phonemic awareness, phonics, spelling. My one thing is when I see a family and they say, oh my God, on the spelling test, he can't even read the words. Spelling should be what they're learning in phonics. Phonics is spelling, spelling is phonics. You don't give a list of, in school, I don't know why they do that, give the list of words. The kids can't even read it. When I was at one of the schools, I used to make up because everybody had a spelling test. So I would write down the words the kids had in Foundations or Wilson that week and say, just study these patterns. And the teachers would give them that test. And you need, of course, always to work fluency, vocabulary, comprehension, and writing. Writing is just so important. And I don't know Barton that well, but do you have dictation of sentences and stuff in Barton? Yeah.
Absolutely. And spelling tests.
Yeah, and spell right. Wilson, you always give spelling tests, but it's on what you taught them to
Right?
decode, right? It's
Mhm.
not
Right.
right. Okay. Teachers, these are just a list of quick assessments. The San Diego, the Dibbles, phonemic awareness screenings. I've used the words their way spelling assessment, just lets you know, and that's all online. And I think it's in your packet, Trisha, that you have. And I like to give sometimes a silent reading maze test, especially if I'm working with a child who's on the spectrum, because in a silent reading maze, and these are free also online, they read a story, they have 3 minutes, but just like a closed passage where every third or fourth word is missing, and they have to circle the right word that fits in. Because some kids do better on a maze test because they could sort of get the gist from the story. But when you have a comprehension test with questions, sometimes they don't get the question. And for children who are really struggling in comprehension, a maze will tell you really where they are. Do they have some skills that they understand it? And then as you get to higher levels, you work on the questions. Have any of you used the silent reading maze? It's just great. And I think I have some mazes. If you email me or I'll give them to Trisha, you could get them. It's great because they're timed and it really tells you how to do it. Okay. The closed reading test is the maze. That's on Dibble's 8. It's all online, free, but it really tells you what their levels are and are they getting the gist of the story. It's very interesting. The other thing I sometimes use are these writing probes, and I give you from curriculum-based measures where you give the child, and I gave you the link at the end of the presentation and what you do is you give the kids a story starter and you give them, I think it's 4 minutes. You give them 1 minute to think about the story and then you let them write a story. When they're done writing the story, there's a chart and it tells you how many words a child of the certain what grade they're in should they be writing in the 3 minutes they were given the story to write. It's very interesting assessment. It's quick. When I was helping out at, I guess it was Maplewood Elementary, we gave it to all the kids. And it was just unbelievable the data we got because we said writing is sometimes an ignored thing. They don't do enough writing except when they're getting ready for the writing test. But it's very interesting. Okay, we can go to the next. Okay, San Diego. I'm not, I know that you guys know that. I start the San Diego 2 or 3 grade levels below their grades if you do it. Yeah, does somebody have a question? Okay. All right. Okay. So I like to give, I said, an oral reading fluency probe because I look to measure their rate, their accuracy, and prosody. So those are 3 things that we get in the probe. So I want to know, are they doing the right number of words correct per minute? And there is a high correlation at the rate they read if they do that, and reading comprehension. Okay, let's go to the next slide. Okay, now when I give an oral reading fluency probe, I take the words correct per minute. I take the words correct that the kids read. How many words? This kid, let's say he read 44 words correctly and he tried 50 words. Okay. So I look to see how many words they read correctly. And then I divided how many words did they try. You get a percentage. And if a child's percentage is really below 95%, 90 to not, if it's below 90 to 95%, they need a phonics screening. So I don't know if you've seen this, but okay, so from a 1 minute oral reading fluency probe, you can get there independent. You could figure out, is it a word recognition problem? If they read the probe, the third grade probe, or let's say the fifth grade probe, and he read 146 words correctly, then he's not going to have a phonics problem. I don't have to look because he's 100% accurate. If he tried, let's say on the fifth grade passage, 146 words, but he only read 72 correctly, let's say he's went through it, but only half of them were right, he has phonics problem. I'm going to go on and look to see, wow, I better do a phonics screen to see what the problem is. So you can find out there, is it a rate problem? Is it a decoding problem? Okay. Everybody with me? Okay, now let's go to the next slide. And okay, so you get the target score. I always think, well, how many words should they be doing? But then let's say they read the right number of words. I have to look at prosody. How did they read the passage? Did they have, okay, we can go to the next slide. Did they have, okay, next one. Oh, mine is frozen here. Can you get the next one?
I'm attempting to.
Yeah. And the next one's it should be the chart. It's going to be, you see? I don't know why. Okay, it's going to be a chart. And the chart, no, go back a little. That. It's going to be right up here, 40. Slide 40.
I'm clicking on it. It's just taking a while.
That's right. I can't even do it. Well, you have the chart. I don't know if you could read it in your handout or see it on yours, but what it is, it's a scale that you use when a child reads, and you're looking at expression. You're looking to see if they stop at periods, and okay, here it is. Multi-dimensional fluency rubric. It's a rubric. It's really good. And you give them points in expression, phrasing, smoothness. If what the goal is to get at least 10 points. So if you have a child reads and he's very quiet, and if you see that, let's say he's only reading word by word, and he gets maybe a score of 3 or 4, you know that you have to work on expression also, because if you read the story and you don't have expression or you don't phrase right, you're not going to understand the story. So I don't even have to give a comprehension test. In the 1 minute timing, I have gotten all this information about the child. Have you guys administered 1 minute oral reading fluency probes? I mean, okay, so I'm going to show you exactly how to do it, because I think, and if anything I do when I get a kid, it makes everybody understand what's the problem. Okay, so what I do, okay, and I could send, okay, I have a copy of the probe. The child has a copy of the probe, and I have a timer. It's going to be a 1 minute timing. They say that when you do it, you should probably do three timings, but sometimes if I'm in a rush, I do one. If you go online to Dibble, say you can't find it, email me, I'll send you the probes, okay? I have all of it. And so I say to the kids, when I say begin, I want you to start reading the story. If they come to a word that they don't know, and I do that 3 second rule, I wait 3 seconds, I'll just give them the word. I say, okay, and keep going. Now, sometimes if I see they're really struggling after a minute, I say, okay, you could stop here. But if I see that they'd be upset if I stop them in the middle, I might let them finish. But I draw a line on mine. I draw a line on every word they miss. And also, um, I put a line where they stop. Okay. And that will show me how many words they've read per minute. If you go online, Dibbles, they have all these, they show you how to do it. Truthfully, when I used to do my trainings in person, we would do it with a partner. I have a test, and you would work with a partner and give the test to each other. Okay. So that counts as an error. But just from this 1 minute timing, you have all this information about a child. 1 minute. So, and used to tell teachers, I would go in, I'd recommend it, and they would do it. I said, I could do it for you, but you have to hear your kids read. And we wound up doing it a couple of the schools on all of the kids. Okay, you need to progress monitor your children no matter what program you're using. And I like to use, even when I was doing Wilson with my little boy, I would do oral reading fluency probes with him every month just to see how he was improving. And he used to love it. Or I do the silent reading mazes. It's 3 minutes. It's a silent reading. You just see, and it's 3 minutes, and you have really good information that you can chart and really just tell parents about. Wow, when we started, he was reading a second grade passage. He was reading 20 words correct in a minute. Now he's on a second grade passage. He's up to 50 words correct per minute. It's hard data that you can understand. It is just so valuable to do that. And okay, so structure. So I want to say more about tutoring. All right, we know we want whatever when you tutor, you want explicit instruction, systematic, multisensory. The kids like coming to my house because I have all the Wilson stuff. I have the magnetic charts. I have every single thing. I even still have a low table that was my own kids' table with pencils to do. Okay. And because my neighbors' kids, they all want to learn how to write. So they all come over and we do writing. And I even made up little index cards, so they're not here now, with um, lines on it. And that's the other thing. In younger grades, when teachers have the kids coloring with markers, it's not great. Kids need to use colored pencils. Don't let them have markers even in your class. If you do it, even give them a colored pencil to underline and write with because the pressure is different and they'll write better. Another thing, I'm almost done. Okay. When I test a kid, I ask them to write their name and I watch how they write their name because I want to see how they make their letters because I want to make sure that they're forming their letters correctly. Because when you don't, by fourth grade, it's a little late. But if you don't know how to write the letters correctly, it slows you down also because we also want fluency writing your letters, handwriting fluency. Okay, we can go to the um, okay. How to structure a decode. This is Barton, Wilson. Everything is the same. You do a
Martin
warm
Gilligan.
up. We all do this. The sound drill, review new concepts, word mapping. We do it. Okay, this is an example of what sounds there are, what you teach in Wilson, how you teach it. I know in Orton, in Wilson, we start with letters that are straight. In Orton, we did curved letters. We did C, A, O. We did the direction. It just depends. Every program is different, the sequence they teach the letters. And the goal is you don't want them all to be confusing how to make the letters. Because with the B, you teach it, start at the top, go around. In Wilson and in foundations, we have the kids use gross motor to write the letters standing up, and everybody stands up. Put your hand up here, do it right. And it's unbelievable. It works. Okay. In Broward, my office was on the gen ed floor. They said they wanted me to work with gen ed, that we were all together in it and they needed another voice. So when they would say, "What do you think about this reading program?" I say, "Well, let me see, what's the sequence that they're teaching the skills in phonics?" And I'd look at the back, and if there was no sequence, I go, "I hate the program." You have to have programs, right, that have a sequence of sounds. So you have to know what the kids are learning and the sequence that they will be learning it, and also what skills are being taught. So I always look for that in programs that people are using. Okay. Um, okay, progress monitoring. We have to see how the kids are doing. And in Wilson, I don't know, in Barton, is it after every lesson or every two lessons where you have like can you chart what they're doing? I've seen
Yeah,
Barton. Yeah.
right. You can. Absolutely.
Yeah. And so that's really important, no matter what you're using, even if you're working on comprehension, you need to have something to wrap it up and also to tell the child how they're doing. They
Hmm.
need to know, really. Okay. Um, okay. Essential tools and techniques. I said you need a scope and sequence with what you're doing. Decodable readers, manipulatives, sound word mapping. And nowadays, every single thing is on the computer. That's why I couldn't teach a class anymore. Even Wilson lessons now, they have it where you could do couldn't figure it out. It's all on the board. You fly, I've seen teachers doing it. It's unbelievable. And it's great. It is really great. Okay, the key things that I hope today that reading difficulties can have different causes. Assessment must identify the root cause. Am I working with that child? And intervention should match their profile. And progress monitoring ensures that instruction is effective, that what we're doing, is the right thing. Okay. I used a book. I used to give it out at Broward County schools called Core Assessing Reading Multiple Measures. And I think the book now is $50, and I can't believe now that they let me buy it and give it out at every training I gave. I gave the book out. It has silent reading mazes. It has fluency probes. It gives you all the phonemic awareness tests. It's unbelievable. It is so, and you could probably get them used. It is such a good, just an extra book to have. No, I don't have it here with me. Um, I know I love Anita Archer's book, Explicit Instruction. She says that schools should stop the fluff and teach the stuff. And I can tell you, my granddaughter goes to a school in Miami. It is beautiful. They have everything. She has learned nothing. If she hadn't gotten tutored, she would never have learned how to read. It was all fluff, just nonsense. And Kate Kane's book about children's comprehension problems in oral and written language is great. Um, Intervention Central, if you go to that website and go to curriculum-based measures, they have writing probes. I believe, I used to take the kids' stories sometimes and put it into a maze thing and make it into a reading test for them that they had to then fill in the missing words in the story they wrote. It would be fun. It was really interesting. And I like this thing from, the Institute of Education Sciences. I don't know if we still have that anymore, but I did like all their handouts. I thought they were great, but really go to Intervention Central. It's got so much information. It's great with curriculum-based measures and also for math. I don't know, do you do tutoring in math?
Yes, we
They have a
do.
lot of stuff in math there also. It's really great, really great.
Kindergarten
Um,
through college level.
yeah, wow. So, um, that's it. Any
Well,
questions?
that was phenomenal. Thank you for your 50 plus years of experience that you just poured out to us for the last hour. If anybody wants to pick Eleanor's brain, now's the time for any, one-on-one type questions or overall questions, go right ahead.
I wondered, Eleanor, if you knew what your feelings were about David Kilpatrick and the drills. Have you
You
ever?
know, it's so funny you asked that. The last time I went to a Wilson meeting, the
Mm-hmm.
people, girl, there was a bunch of people from were behind us. They love his stuff. Now, I love his phonics test. I give it, the pass, the phoneme,
Yeah.
yep, I love the test. I never used his materials because, like, even my kid that I did Wilson with, his phonemic awareness was not, it was okay. It was not that. I think, I don't know if it's necessary all the time. I think that people are spending a lot of time on phonemic awareness and not getting, I mean, Wilson does it, Barton does it, and then you get right into it. And although I did look that some of his stuff does go into the text, doesn't it? Go.
It needs to go into the grapheme phoneme connection. But in the
Mm-hmm.
beginnings, for those of the people that are watching that may not know what that is, it's like saying the word blend, like we blend sounds to make words, and take out the oh, what would you have left? And the
Yeah,
child would have to say bend within 2 seconds. That would be a beginning blend
right.
deletion.
Right.
But once you get to the phoneme grapheme, the letters on the page, plus you actually physically writing the word blend, right? And then matching it so the child actually sees blend, right? And then
Mm-hmm.
take out the oh. If you're
Yeah.
using your letter tile systems and doing that and they say bend, that's what's going to make more increased gains.
Yeah.
Right. I think it's a lot of stuff on
Lulu,
phonemic
are you up here for a
awareness.
thing?
Pardon me? Uh,
It was
I,
just somebody talking in the background. We're good.
I, okay. I think it's a lot of phonemic awareness and doesn't get into the text quick enough because even you, Fly, get right away. I love their word chains. I love it because if
Mhm.
you do that with a kid and you say, okay, let's take our letters, write the word bag. All right, let's change bag to bat. That is a better exercise than anything than just doing it orally because you really want the connection of the sound with the letter. That's what I think. And I think with U-Fly, that's what I did a lot with my granddaughter. I have a whole basket here of U-Fly stuff because I thought it was so clever how they did it instead of just doing it orally. Now, um, Kenneth Campbell with Great Leaps. He had a very good thing called sound awareness, where the parents could work with the kids at home and do phonemic awareness at home. And they said, and it's just for like 3 minutes. So you
Yeah.
say, because every
Mhm.
parent wants to help their child. So if you give them something that's 3 minutes, right? I never ever sent anything home for the kids to my kids when I taught to read to their parents if they couldn't read it perfectly. I wasn't
Mhm.
torturing the parents and I wasn't torturing the kids. I never did that. But if you send something home that's a 3 minute phonemic awareness thing, and if they don't get it all right, then they do the same one the next night. I just think, I don't know, but these people told us they love Kirkpatrick, they love everything. And I don't know. I didn't use it. So maybe I'm wrong, but I know there's a big, everybody's like really into it. But doing those word chains is the best thing ever. And I have to tell you, I once gave um, a phonemic awareness test to the reading coaches in Broward County. I used to do a lot of trainings for them. And we had, I'll never forget, I said, okay, we have the word grew. Everybody, how many sounds in the word grew? Reading coaches, they said two. Grew.
Good.
Ooh, that's you're right. Grew.
Or
Ooh, they got it wrong. And I was laughing. I go, I'm going to work with all of you now.
Did your thing ever come up?
It's because
People,
something is moving. It's hard to find it. It keeps moving.
Oh,
He's running
right.
across the
hey,
road.
But they don't know, like, even before we did Wilson training here, the people from Wilson said, you have to do a training and teach everybody what a blend is, what
Mhm.
I had to teach everything, what the silent letters are, short vowels, long vowels, syllable types. People don't know it. They don't know that. So it's so I still like I would rather they did word chains from UFly. I think it's cheap and it's better. That manipulation of the letters is it's great. It's really, I think it's really good. So I don't know. I should look at Kirkpatrick again, but
Thank you.
welcome. Thank you. And any other questions?
I just want to say thank you so much, Eleanor. I've really enjoyed this past hour.
Oh, well, thank you for listening. No, really. I'm sorry. I know my biggest fear was moving the slides, and I was right. I was right to I was like,
That's
"How am I
okay.
gonna do this?"
It's fine.
And I
Everything
purposely
worked
didn't.
out fine.
No, it was great. I didn't send it to my children or grandchildren because I knew my grandkids at college would definitely have signed up to hear this. They said, I said, no, you're not. No, no, no. Because they know I'm getting
Any
there.
last questions?
No, you think
before
of
we go?
anything, email me really, and anything you want, tell Trisha, I'll send it to her.
Yes.
But I am going to send some great writing materials for these kids who it's great. It's from Teachers College. It's really old from Columbia. It's the really great program. So,
Excellent, thank you. I took a road trip there when I was at Towson State
oh,
for a workshop
really?
on a Saturday with all my other teachers that were doing their student teaching. Back in
Yeah.
the day,
Yeah.
33 years ago, 33,
Wow.
34 years ago, yeah. All right, well, thank you so much, Eleanor. It's been a great
Okay,
evening.
you're welcome.
Thank you.
Well, thank
Thanks
you,
so much.
Trisha.
Bye.
Bye.
Okay. Bye-bye.